Let us now begin the chapter. On to the summit, we reach the top. Tenzing and Hillary left Camp 9 in the morning. Tenzing was determined to get to the top. He thought that he will reach the top anyhow, even if he dies, as he was not afraid to die on that day. When they left for the Mount Everest this time, Tenzing was so determined that he told, even if I die today, I'll reach the top. They took turns and to take the lead because the one that follows has a difficult job of acting as the anchor for the team. Tenzing was carrying the flags of Great Britain, Nepal, India and the United Nations in order to plant them at the summit. When they reached the top, they had to plant these four flags of the nations. And who was carrying it? Tenzing was carrying it. After an hour of steady climbing, they had to cut across the south face and begin climbing the west side, where they had to cross a steep line of rocks. This proved to be difficult and thus took some time. So they steadily climbed a part of the mountain, and after that there was a steep line of rocks. That part was difficult to climb and it took some time. The last 60 or 70 feet up the top were not very dangerous. They kept up the same steady pace, and almost together they reached the small flattened summit. During the last 50 feet from the peak, Tenzing and Hillary were moving about 20 feet apart. So when they were about to reach the top, they were 20 feet apart, almost 20 feet apart. And the last 60 or 70 feet before reaching the top was not very dangerous, and they kept moving at a slow and steady pace. And they both finally reached the top, the summit. And how is it described? It is described as the small flattened part, summit. They were tied together with a rope. Most of the time the rope was loose, but when they went over the dangerous ground, they drew it taut. Taut means stretched out tightly. The rope was a symbol because it tied Hillary and Tenzing together. One could not move without the other. They were not two individuals but a team. They could only reach the summit if they worked as a team. So they were not individuals who were climbing the Mount Everest. It was a team of two, Hillary and Tenzing. The rope was a symbol to them because it was carrying both of them together. Both had to be dependent on each other, and one cannot move without the help of other. The writer had been asked many times that who was first, Hillary or himself, Tenzing. He said when they were within the reach of the summit, he did not think of who was going to be the first. As it is said over here that they were a team and not individuals. For them, it was the first team who reached the top. But for people, it is individuals. So they kept asking who was first, Hillary was first or Tenzing was first. But to this, he always thought that whenever they were trying to reach the top, they never thought that who will be the first person. They always knew that they will be the first team. He is sure about Hillary too, that he was not thinking of that. Tenzing says, climbing takes all your attention. One has many more important worries there. To all such type of questions, Tenzing and he thinks that Hillary too has the same view, that while climbing, the attention is not on who is the first person to reach the top, but it is we finally reach the top. And there are more important worries over there, that we have to reach safely. There is no accident over there. He further says, it does not matter for him and Hillary as well, that who reaches the first at the top. The main thought of Tenzing and Hillary was to reach the top, and one could not do it alone. So they always considered each other as a team. And it did not matter for both of them that who was the first person to reach the top. When Tenzing, Hillary, and Colonel Hunt reached Kathmandu, they discovered that a controversy had arisen, which was about who had reached the summit first, Hillary or Tenzing. All of them felt that the controversy was very childish. They finally reached the summit, the top, and they were very happy. And they thanked God and every other forces that they believed. But when they reached Kathmandu with Colonel Hunt, they saw that there was a controversy going over there, that who was the first person to reach the top. And they all felt that the controversy was very childish. A pact, a formal agreement between the individuals. Here the individuals are Hillary and Tenzing. A formal agreement was made and each of them signed it in the office of the Prime Minister of Nepal. Each one signed his own statement. To this controversy, they had a solution. They made a formal agreement in which Hillary and Tenzing both signed it. Where did this happen? In the office of the Prime Minister of Nepal. A copy of Hillary's statement was with Tenzing, which read Kathmandu, June 22nd, 1953. So the agreement was made on this date. The pact. Now we'll see what was written in the agreement. On May 29th, Tenzing Sherpa and I left our high camp on Mount Everest for our attempt at the summit. As we climbed upwards to the south summit, first one and then the other would take a turn at leading. We crossed over the south summit and moved along the summit ridge. We reached the summit almost together. See, they always considered as they reached together. We embraced each other, overjoyed at our success. Then I took a photograph of Tenzing holding aloft the flags of Great Britain, Nepal, the United Nations and India. Signed by E.P. Hillary. So this was the pact which Hillary had signed. And according to him, he said that Tenzing was holding the flags. I took his photograph. When we reached, we were almost together and we embraced each other. We hugged each other and we were very overjoyed and happy at our success. And a similar paper written in English was signed by Tenzing that they will not take part in any controversy. Even though the controversy had arisen, they signed this pact and made an agreement that they will never get into such controversy. First thought. Tenzing's first thought on reaching the top was a sense of gratitude, that is a thanksgiving to God that after having failed 6 times, he had blessed him with fulfillment of this desire. So when he finally reached the top, earlier he had made 6 attempts. In each of those he had failed, but he did not lose hope. And when he reached the top, when he reached the summit, he first thanked God for blessing him with this fulfillment of the desire. Tenzing had held so long. He placed the offerings to God on the summit that he had carried with him. This was in accord with his religion. Tenzing offered a silent prayer in his heart. The offerings were biscuits, candy, and a little blue pencil. His daughter Nima had given the pencil before he left his home. She asked Tenzing to put it on the top of the mountain as her offering. So whenever the mountaineers reaches the top, they first thank God and do whatever their religion has to do with it. They thank God and they offer it to the God whatever they wanted to offer. Here Tenzing offered biscuits, candies and a blue pencil which was given to him by his daughter. She had asked him to put it and offer it to the God when he reaches the top. Tenzing got out the flags which he had on a piece of string about 4 feet long. The author fastened one end to his ice axe, and Hilary then took pictures as the author held them up. As the author wanted to bring his ice axe down, he buried one end of the string in the ice on the top and the other in the snow on the slope down below. Thus the ice axe was useful not only while climbing but also for holding up the flags. So when they reached the top, they had to put up the flags over there, which was done by the help of the ice axe, which was used to climb. So the ice axe was not only important for climbing but it was also important for holding up the flags. Tenzing's friend Lambert gave him a red scarf a year earlier on May 28. When they were standing at 28,215 feet, Lambert had been the leader of the 1952 Swiss expedition. Tenzing had worn that scarf all the way up to the mountain from Darjeeling during the climb with Hilary. As he stood at the top, he remembered his great friend and felt that he was with him. So his friend Lambert had gifted him a red scarf a year earlier, and the date is mentioned over here. They had been together during the 1952 Swiss expedition, and Tenzing was wearing that red scarf all the way to the top from Darjeeling itself. And when he reached the top, he remembered his friend Lambert. From the top of the summit, the hills and mountains looked like gods and goddesses to Tenzing, the author of this book. The plains looked like so many broken pieces of the map. If you cut ice, 2 or 3 people could stand there on the roof of the world. 20 or 30 feet below the top, there was enough flat square for 2 people to sleep. One could pitch one tent there. The summit is flat on one side and steep on the other side. There is snow on the northern side, rocks on the south and east, and snowy rock on the west. This is how the author is describing the summit. Okay, from the top, the view looks like gods and goddesses. There are so many plains. Some parts are rocky, some parts are snowy. This is how the author describes the summit. More caution is needed. Of course, it took less time climbing down, but you needed more hushiyar, which means caution. When I reached Camp 9, my first thought was, thank God we have been spared an accident, and if up to now there have been no accidents, I hope there will be none in future. I had always prayed to God and He had saved me. This is what Tenzing writes. He says that climbing was easier, but you needed to be more cautious there. When he reached the top after his climb, he thanked God for there were no accidents and he saved his life once more. Hilary and Tenzing were in no mood for any talk at Camp 9 because they were tired, obviously. They just attended to their own things. They stayed there about half an hour, boiled some snow to make lemon water and drank it. When they left, they took only their sleeping bags and left everything else behind in the tent from Camp 9 to Camp 8, where they spent the night. After coming back, they were really very tired, so they did not wanted to talk because they were completely tired. So they took rest, had some lemon water, and when leaving they just took their sleeping bags and nothing else. Just above Camp 8, where the others could see them, Tenzing raised his arm with his thumb up. CWF, noise, at WG, low, saw Hilary and Tenzing and their faces flushed with joy. In this way, Tenzing was able to tell them of our success. When coming back This was a sign that Tenzing gave to the people waiting at Camp 8. As Tenzing and Hilary got nearer to Camp 8, those who were waiting for them had made a welcome tea. People were waiting at the Camp 8, waiting for Tenzing and Hilary to come back. It had been made in a hurry and somehow some kerosene got into the welcome tea. The tea smelled kerosene. However, Tenzing thought since the gentleman had taken so much trouble to bring it, he drank the tea which smelled kerosene. He calls it a kerosene flavored tea. So when they came back to the Camp 8, people were very happy. His companions and everybody over there were very happy. And the man had made tea for them, which was made in hurry, and somehow some kerosene got into the tea. But Tenzing thought the gentleman had taken so much effort in making the tea. So he drank it and he called it the kerosene flavored tea.